Hey everybody, this is Doug Keeling, and today we're going to mock up a website in Photoshop. There are a lot of great tools out there today for designing for the web. For example, Sketch is a really great app that I really like a lot. But for those of you who maybe have never considered using Photoshop for anything other than image editing, I just want to give you an idea of what my process is so that if you're interested in web design at all, you can apply these ideas to your own workflow. So this is going to be a fake project for a fake coffee shop, and a lot of times I find that in the more rural area where I live, a lot of these businesses that come to me for websites don't even have logos or any kind of graphics in place. So what you see me doing here is designing some kind of a identity for this company, and I've got a few options here. I'm running these past my wife. She's telling me what she likes. She likes this one the best. So I'm going to refine this a little bit further in Adobe Illustrator, clean it up a little bit, and once I've got that completed, we're going to go ahead and start on the web design. I've got an 1800 pixel wide document here by about 4000 pixels tall, and that is just at 72 dpi.
In this day and age, there are many considerations in terms of designing for mobile devices first, thinking about retina displays, the other types of devices a site will be viewed on, and so forth. This tutorial is not to overlook all of those things, but just to give a basic introductory look at how a desktop version of a website might be created or mocked up before sending it to a client. So let's get started.
So this is going to be a one-page website design with various sections in it. So at the top we're going to have a header section that has some of the basic location information, and then beneath that we're going to have a menu. And then further on down we'll have a catering section that talks about their catering services, and finally kind of an about us section that gives a few details about the business or the business owners. So I'm going to assume that each section here on this page is going to be about 1000 pixels high. So I'm going to drag some guides here that reflect that. And then I also want to create sort of a center container, so I know kind of the maximum boundaries where I want most of my text to be at in the document. So I'm going to create this column, and I'm going to create kind of a grid that is within that column. And to do that, you can just drag guides or place them from using the menu commands. But there's a great little plugin here called Guide. It's really cheap. It's like $10. It's the best $10 you'll spend if you do layouts like this, where you need to create grids and columns and rows just to keep yourself on track when you're designing things. So for this 1800 pixel wide document, if I want a 1200 pixel wide column in the center, I need to first of all create a margin on the left and right of 300 pixels, and then I know that I want 3 columns in the middle with a gutter in between them. So that's what I'm doing here, laying those out. Okay, so I've got my coffee stop logo here, and I want to create a column that's basically 1/3 the width of this main section. So I've got my rectangle tool, and I'm going to create a rectangle here, kind of go into that gutter line that I've got. And I'm going to group these together, call this header, just so that we have that in there. And then let's pull the rectangle below the coffee stop logo. And I'm going to change the color of that, but first I think I want to invert this logo because I want to use it on a darker background color. We would normally, verify that this is okay with the client and it meets whatever branding specifications they have. But here I've grabbed a invert adjustment layer and I've masked it just to the logo. And okay, that looks good. Now let's change the background color to something that's kind of a darker brownish color. And fill that using Alt Backspace, Option Delete. So I'm going to perform a couple operations here just to kind of center this logo a little bit, and then I'm going to add some navigation links that when you click them, they will scroll you down the page to whatever section you're going to. So I'm going to switch to my type tool here by pressing T, and then I'm going to find the font called Restless Youth Small Caps Regular, and switch my foreground color to white so that my text will be white. And then we're just going to type in our navigation links. So we're going to have a menu, catering, and then about. And again, those will just take you down the page when you click them.
Okay, so I'm going to adjust this font size here to be about 28 point. If you're wondering what good sizes are for the web, if it's body copy that you're reading, typically they set text units in M's. Now 1 M is 16 pixels, and in terms of font sizes in Photoshop, 16 pixels, it's not exact, but 16 pixels is very close to 16 point font. So just use 16 point and you should be good to go as kind of your baseline. Now, moving on from there, I'm going to perform a few operations here to just vertically and horizontally align both the logo and these nav options. And then we're going to move on to the next section here to the right of this, where I'm going to actually type in some text and then place that over a background image. Once you have your text where you want it, just grab your rectangle tool again and draw a rectangle. I'm going to change the color of this here to another brown, kind of a coffee-ish brown there. I'm going to drag that beneath my text layer that I just put in there, change that color to white, and then we're going to move on to actually adding an image that can kind of be an overlay over the background color but underneath the text. Scale that however you need to do it and flip it around, do whatever manipulation you need to. And then we're going to mess around with the blend modes a little bit. The one thing you'll notice is that I've also masked this image to that rectangle, and you just do that by making sure that the image is directly above the rectangle layer, and then holding down the Alt or Option key and clicking in between the two layers to create a clipping mask so that the image will be masked by the shape of the rectangle. So I think I like the lighten blend mode, so I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to drop the opacity of the image to like 60%, something like that, just so that the white is clearly visible, the white of the text. Then I'm just going to readjust that text box and then select the rectangle and vertically align that text so that it's right in the vertical center of that as well. And at this point, I think we're pretty well set for our main section at the top. Now, I could really get lost in the woods here, kind of going down the rabbit hole of showing you every tiny little detail, and I don't feel that that's necessary in this case. I really just want to show you kind of the workflow and the idea and how I process putting this design together based on that little rough draft mock-up that I showed you. So I'm going to have the menu section here, and the first thing I'm going to do is draw another rectangle that's going to represent the background of this section here, and then I'm going to change that color to something that goes along with that, maybe some kind of a gray in this case. From there, I'm going to start pasting in some text, and I've got a lot of this off screen, so you're not going to see a whole lot of that. Adjusting some of my folder structure and so forth in my groups. Now, keeping in mind that I'm using 16 point as kind of the baseline font, I'm going to use larger font sizes for the headings and so forth. So here I'm going to go ahead and put in some headings for each of the different sections on the menu, whether it's coffee, pastries, so forth. And then in the main text boxes, I'm just going to paste in the menu items that I have off screen. Now, there's a lot that you can do here with character styles and paragraph styles, and I think I'll talk about that in another video because it's really a useful tip if you're not familiar with that, being able to change what your text looks like in real time and after the fact. You know, after you've already typed it in, if you set it up properly, you can change one thing that affects the entire document all at once. So again, utilizing my columns here, I'm just pasting in all of that menu text as kind of filler so I can get an idea of how this is all going to play out in the long run. Moving on from there, we're going to go and create the next section, which is going to be a catering section. Talk about the catering services that they offer. And again, I'm going to utilize these three columns, but in a little bit different way, just to give it some visual interest. So I'm creating some white boxes that have a really low opacity on the white, so they're become just a little lighter version of the brown that's in the background. And then I'm creating the text that's going to go in each box. So depending on the size of the party you want to have catered and how many people are coming, these are the options that they're going to have available. And you can see there, that's basically what it looks like in the end. It's pretty straightforward. I tweaked a couple things, modified that background color just a little bit, and added the third column in here. And I used some paragraph and character styles on here to be able to easily match the second and third column to what I entered in on the left column. So let's move on to our final section here, and this is going to be the kind of about us statement and the about the owners kind of area. So I'm typing in a nice title there at the top. I'm going to change the size and color of that a little bit, and then start working on the owner profiles. So first of all, I'm going to start off by creating a box with my rectangle tool. And I'm going to hold the shift key down so that I can constrain that to a square. And then I'm going to round the corners of that by going up to the radius sections in the properties panel. Make sure the link is checked and it's on, and then I'm going to just put it up to some ungodly high number so that it basically makes it a circle. Then from there I'm going to uncheck that link and go up to the top two corners and make it look a little bit more like a shield or like the logo that we have. So I've taken my corner radius there on the upper left and right corners to be something like 10 pixels. Now I've got an image that I'm going to drag above that layer, and I'll reveal that so that we can see it here. And then what I'm going to do is actually mask that again to that shape layer, that rectangle shape layer, by clicking in between the layers with the Alt or Option key pressed down, and you'll see that little mask icon. From there, it's just a matter of, again, creating a title for the name and like a subtitle that will be for their position. And then further along those lines, adding a description that's going to span the last two columns on the right side. So we'll draw a text box in there, paste in some copy, and then I'm going to group all of these items together that form sort of what a user profile item looks like. Group all those together, and then press Command or Control J to copy that group and pull it down below so we can make the profile for the second owner or maybe the partner of this business. And after a few adjustments to the name and the bio and so forth, putting in the image, we now have a completed About Us section. And at this point, I think we're looking pretty good. Now that we have our mock-up, the process moving forward depends on where you work. If you're a freelancer or a one-person operation, you can send a JPEG of this mock-up directly to a client for review and feedback. If you're working in an agency, you will no doubt have several layers of management that would need to review this in-house before presenting it to a client. It all depends on what your work environment is like. If you'd like a copy of the PSD to inspect and poke around in, you can download that from my website, dougkeeling.com, and I'll have a list of fonts that I used and so forth down in the description. All photos came from unsplash.com. You can get those for free. Alright, with that, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing for more videos and tutorials, and please gently, ever so gently, press the like button. It gets so much abuse these days, I'm not sure how much more smashing it can take. Alright, I'm Doug Keeling. See you on the next video.